It is hydrangea season. Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and we are going to take a walk through the gardens here at the Garden Center and show you all of the beautiful plants that are blooming here mid to end of summer. But right now, it's those panicle hydrangeas that are in their prime. So as we walk through the garden, you are going to be learning about several different varieties of panicle hydrangeas. So be sure to stick to the end because we've got a great new variety we'll be showing you at that time. Let's go take a walk through the garden. We're going to start right front and center here. We are in our parking lot garden beds, and the Bobo hydrangeas, I'm going to say they're in their prime, but it depends on how you define prime. Is prime to you when they're beautiful pink and getting that red tone, or is prime when they're beautiful, crisp, clean white? We're going to go with them being beautiful, crisp, clean white. This Bobo hydrangea is about 3.5 or so foot tall and about 4 foot wide. These are on drip irrigation, so they are living their best life in this garden bed. A lot of my hydrangeas do seem a little bit bigger than what they may be in your bed, but keep in mind I am watering them every day, and they're getting all the loving that they want and need. Planted with these, we have the Verbena meteor showers. This is a great plant for the butterflies as well as the pollinators. It's just kind of a fun, whimsy plant, and I think it just really fits good in this bed. Planted in with the Supertunia Mini Vista Hot Pink. And I'm loving the color combination too, that pink and the purple and the white. It is just, I think personally, a fabulous look. Let's head on over to the new variety bed and just take a look at how some of these new varieties are doing. This bed is absolutely going to be the harshest type of environment that we could have planted these plants in. And we do that because we want to show you we don't want to give them all the love and care because that's really not fair. We want to abuse them really and see how they do. So let's take a look at how they're doing. So I'm going to talk about the different things that are in bloom right now because if I don't, I'm sure someone's going to ask. We'll start off here with the Alstroemeria Inca Ice. It's a great perennial. This is not a new variety, but it's just one of the longest blooming perennials here in this bed. Hardy down to zone 5 or 6. We're in Michigan, so we're like a 5B, 6A, and it comes back faithfully here at the Garden Center as well as at my home. Surprise with this year, the Be My Sunshine Calla Lily. That was planted last year, and I'm shocked it came back. So sometimes it's nice when you get those little garden surprises. New plant for 2024 is the Cherry Drop Coleus. So this is one of those coleus that does more of a trailing type habit when you plant it in a planter. The thing that I've really noticed with these cherry drops is they're super aggressive. This here is one plant, so you can see one plant covers a lot of ground. We're using it as a ground cover here. So definitely when using this, use it sparingly because it does a lot. In the ground, we have superbells planted. We do not necessarily recommend planting superbells in the ground because they like to have more of that well-drained soil where sometimes in the ground they can be a little too wet. But this is the superbells Blue Improved, and it's doing pretty good here in the landscape, as good as I would expect it to do anyways, planted in the ground. Nice, beautiful, kind of a shimmery blue color. So we've been pretty impressed with that. We also have the Trinia Pink. We planted this in the ground in full sun. We usually say that this is more of a shade type plant, but even here in the full sun, it's doing fabulous. This is an aquapot that's buried under this mound here. It's been taken over with the Thulenbergia orange appeal vine, and there's some Trinia and some Mojave portulaca in there, which has been all but gobbled up by that vine, but kind of impressive what the vine is doing in that aquapot. Continuing on, tucked in the back there is another Alstroemeria that is the Inca Jolie, and that's another one that's hardy here in Michigan and gets about 3 foot tall. More of the new annuals for 2024. We have this beautiful little double. It's called Smitten Pink, and it's kind of a two-tone, light pinks with dark pink and little cute rosebud flower forms. So that would look gorgeous, I think, in a container or hanging basket. Next to it is another Super Bells. This is double white, new variety for 2024. Just again, another nice, really pretty rosebud looking bloom. In the back is the James Britannia. That is James Britannia Dusk, a new variety. That plant I think was probably something better suited for those of you in the south, but it is doing okay. I mean, we're getting a lot of flowers here in the north. And then next, let's see, what do we have? We have the Verbena. This is the Superbena Cherry Burst. This is an improved version of the Superbena Cherry Burst. And basically what the improvement means is you're getting more inconsistency in the plant, which is very intentional. Next is the Sweet Sangria Super Bell, not Super Bell, but Sweet Sangria Mini Vista. Beautiful plant. That's an improved version, and I'm just loving the mass of flowers that plant is giving. And the Supertunias are great planted in the landscape. They do really well. The Aquapot is holding on, and oh man, that thing has just definitely been worth every penny we put into the plants and into the pot, because it has been gorgeous from the beginning all the way here to later in the summer. The thriller we used is the Colocasia Coffee Cups, a really tall, upright, tropical looking plant. We planted with it the Begonia Surefire Cherry Cordial, and that is doing fabulous. And then for more of our trailing, we have the Supertunia Latte, which I think pairs fabulously with the Begonia. Continuing on, we have a few more new varieties. The sweet potato vine here is a new variety, and I'm not sure that we have the name of that one, so we'll put that up on the screen. But it's really a nice kind of a burgundy coloration. Nice large leaves, heavily serrated. I think it's just kind of a nice new color addition to the sweet potato family. Also on the ground there, we have another Super Bells. This is Double Vintage Coral, another one of those that's part of that double series with beautiful little rosebud looking blooms. And I would say this one probably is doing almost the best of any of the doubles that we have planted here in the ground. We have this new beautiful Supertunia that we have been super impressed with. It's a great yellow. It's Supertunia Saffron Finch. It's got that nice deep golden yellow center with a little bit lighter yellow outer edge. But I think it's a great addition to the yellows that were much needed in the Supertunia collection. Planted behind it is the improved version of Bermuda Beach Supertunia. And I love that plant. That color is so rich, so fabulous. It's a much easier pink to work with than the older Bermuda Beach, which that color it was hard to work with in my opinion. A Pugster Blue Butterfly Bush, which is very compact, only about 2.5 foot tall. Excellent for the butterflies. As we continue on, you're going to see a lot of just repeat of what I've already talked about. The garden's kind of mirrored. So just enjoy some of the plants as we walk past them. Here we have the Allium Serendipity, which is just starting to bloom. This is an excellent pollinator plant, and I think it's a great plant to plant in mass. Just kind of a fun, whimsy look about it. I love how the little globe flowers just kind of dance in the breeze. But I think it's a great addition to kind of more your late summer garden. Agastache, this is the meant to be Queen Nectarine. This is another long blooming perennial. So if you're looking for a perennial in your garden that gives you color for a good portion of the season, Agastache would be one to add in. Another Pugster butterfly bush here. This is the now pinker butterfly bush, part of the Pugster series, very compact, only about 2 foot tall, and look at those beautiful pink blooms. Planted next to it is the Atlas Rose, which is doing pretty good, although it is currently infested with Japanese beetles. The foliage is looking pretty clean, but right now they're going after all of the petals on the flowers. But the flowers, still from a distance, I think look really nice. Here we have, and I think this might quite possibly be my newest favorite hydrangea. This is the Firelight Tidbit hydrangea. This is one plant, very compact in size, only about 2.5, maybe 3 foot tall. And you can see it is just loaded with blooms for such a small, on such a small chassis there. These are going to continue to color up into bright reddish pink as the summer goes on. It looks like we might have got dry here and missed a little bit of watering at one point, but not to worry. The rest of the plant I think is looking gorgeous. I was going to say one last new annual, but I think we got a few more as we make the corner. Here we have the new improved version of the coconut Nemesia, which typically Nemesia, just once it gets hot in the summer, they just tank, they die, and just they don't look good. But this one here is handling the summer heat with no problem. Lots of flower, kind of a nice mounding type habit. So I am quite impressed with how this new improved version is holding up here in the summer heat. We're going to go ahead and take a corner and check out more beautiful plants. As we took the corner, there's a lot more new annuals for 2023. The one I want to point out here is the new Hoopla Supertunia. And one thing we're noticing with the Hoopla is that as the summer has gone on, and I don't know if this is a heat thing or just maybe what this plant is supposed to do, but we're noticing that the white margin on this plant is getting larger now that it's a little bit warmer and later on in the season. I don't mind that. I think it's fine. I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to do or not. But I have been overall pretty impressed with the flower color of the plant. And I think it's just neat to have just some different flower forms in that Supertunia collection. The dark purple flower, this is Supertunia Mini Vista Ultramarine. And that's just, I think that's a good comparable to like Royal Velvet. So this would be like the baby brother of Royal Velvet. Planted next to it is more of the Mini Vista Summer Sangria, looking nice. The Heliopsis, this is Heliopsis Bit of Honey. And I'm loving the foliage on this plant. I'm loving the flowers. This too is another plant, another perennial that has really bloomed for quite a long time in the garden. So it's hard to find perennials that have that long bloom season to them, but they definitely are out there, and this is just a nice example of one of them. The Incredible Blush Hydrangea, I had to think incredible or invincible. Incredible Blush Hydrangea, this was in its prime about a month or so ago. Still, we're getting a little bit of that pink color, looking nice, but we could come through and trim off some of those brown flowers at this point if we wanted to. Veronica Ever After, it just keeps sending out longer and longer flower spikes. This has been blooming for probably a month now, and you can see all these spikes. At one time they were loaded with those beautiful periwinkle flowers, where now most of the color here is on the tips, which it's keep pushing out more and more flowers. Another Agastache back there, the Queen Nectarine. That is really quite a large Agastache. I would say it's over 3 foot tall in this garden. There's actually 2 more annuals that we didn't see on that side of the bed. The Pink Cashmere, which is a Superbena. It's a very prolific bloomer, big plant, one that I think could hang out really well with the bubble gum. Beautiful, various shades of pink on the flowers. So that one's doing really good. And then also here we have the Scaevola, the Whirlwind White, improved. And typically I think of that as a container or hanging basket plant, but it's doing really nice here as a ground cover in the garden. And I think it looks really nice too, paired with this Mini Vista Ultramarine. That blue and white combination is really quite fascinating, I think. So, all right, let's continue on. So much more to see. So I told you there's going to be a lot of hydrangeas going on in this video. So here is definitely a big patch of hydrangeas to talk about. Here we have the Tough Stuff hydrangea, and this plant was about a month or so ago in its prime, and you can see all of the blooms. These are blooms that are kind of towards the end of their bloom cycle, although I think they look really nice and fresh, even though I know that they're at the end of the cycle. You can see all the fresh new growth also that this plant is putting on. And I think if we had a little bit longer growing season here in Michigan, we certainly would. If we had a longer growing season here in Michigan, we would be able to get that secondary round of blooms. So it'll depend on how long the fall goes and what the temperatures do, but we might get another flush of blooms on this tough stuff. A lot of what we're seeing behind us are part of the smooth hydrangea family. Again, about a month or so ago, check that video out if you want to see these in their prime. But we've got the Incredible Blush. We have the Incredible, which is just the big, huge white blooms. We've had a lot of rain for the month of July, actually, which we were in a drought all of June, like a pretty severe drought. But July has definitely made up for it. So we've gotten a lot of rain, which I think has really helped these gardens. Behind me though, this is one that I just love and adore and have it at my home garden as well. This is the Firelight Hydrangea. Beautiful crisp white blooms, and you can see it's just starting to pink up a little bit. So as these flowers transition, they're going to turn nearly red, and that'll probably be over the next 3 to 4 weeks or so, as we'll continue to watch these flowers just phase into their pink and into their magenta-y red stage. So really, I think Firelight is a pretty cool hydrangea. Although I say that about them all, right? It's like picking your favorite child. Again, we have a few more of the Incredible Blush, the Incredible White, and in the back there we have the beautiful Pinky Winky hydrangea, which is a panicle hydrangea that has been around for quite some time. And there's actually a new version of Pinky Winky coming out for 2024. It's going to be called Pinky Winky Prime. So we're excited to be able to offer that for you next year. But what sets Pinky Winky apart is it has more of a lace-capped cone-looking flower. And this one is, they're just starting to open up. So what's going to happen is it's going to start at the base and work its way up. It's going to transition to pink. So the bottom flowers will be pink, and we'll be able to watch as they continue to pinken up to the very tip. So we'll continue to watch and update you on that one as the summer continues to go on. But that's, like I said, more of a lacy looking cone-shaped flower. All right, let's head on over to one of our newer berms and take a look at how things are doing over there. So this garden bed is in about its 3rd year, and as I've mentioned before in other videos, it's taken some time for it to kind of transition and grow into its own. The soil was a little tricky in the beginning, but I think it's finally starting to really look like a garden now. So what are we seeing in this garden space? Here we have the oregano Drops of Jupiter, beautiful chartreuse green foliage, and it's just starting to flower now with its beautiful purple blooms. So kind of a nice splash of color that chartreuse brings to the garden. I will say though, this plant does spread, so make sure you're planting it in an area that you're allowing for some spreading. Some of the annuals we're seeing in this space are the Supertunia Mini Vista White and Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow. We're kind of using those as more of a ground type cover. One thing I find quite interesting, and sometimes I like to push the limits on plants, putting things for sun in the shade or putting shade things in the sun, that kind of thing. But here we have some Bergina or pig squeak. It's called Miss Piggy, and this is typically a shade plant that usually blooms more towards the spring, but right now it's just sending up flower spikes and it's got these beautiful pink flowers on them. We'll take you in and show you a little closer. Nice thick foliage, glossy, squeaky, waxy foliage. But look at those beautiful flowers. It's just starting to bloom. And again, this isn't typical. These usually are something we recommend for a shade garden, but they're doing good here in the full sun. All right, let's see, what else do we get? So this garden here is a prime example of what your petunias may look like if you don't fertilize. So a lot of the garden beds, we will put fertilizer in an injector and fertilize the beds. But on the back side here, you can see these petunias, they just look a little hungry and a little sickly. And the reason for that is they're just not getting proper feeding. So with petunias, even in the ground or in your planters, we recommend fertilizing them about every 1 to 2 weeks to keep them looking fabulous all summer long. If you don't, this is kind of the look you're gonna get. So feed them, they'll be fabulous. Ooh, we've got a hibiscus blooming. So I'm not entirely sure which this one is. I believe, wow, I don't even want to guess. Normally we have a tag in here naming what the flower is, but off the top of my head, I feel like it's like cherry chocolate, although the flowers look quite white to be cherry chocolate. So we'll have to verify the blooms with the name, and we'll do that. But beautiful. The nice thing with the hardy hibiscus or rose mallow is they have extra large blooms and lots of them. So the Summerific series, what's unique and different about that is they bloom from what I like to say tip to toe. So all the way up and down the stems, you're going to get buds, which result in flowers. The old varieties of the Summerific hibiscus, all of the flowers were just on the top, and you had nothing to show for down at the bottom of the plant. It makes them longer blooming and obviously a much better show of flowers. This here is another Agastache, something we're trialing right now. I think it's like Blue Bayou or something like that. Looking pretty nice, fairly compact. Here is one of the reminiscent roses, Reminiscent Crema, and the flowers are looking nice. Let's see, very fragrant as well. So a nice fragrance to that Reminiscent Crema. Russian sage. So this is, I believe, Sage Advice. Nope, I had a 50% chance. It's denim and lace, which is a great drought-tolerant, heat-loving perennial. Nice spiky blue flowers. Up front there is some of the sedum. That's a summer blooming sedum opposed to a fall blooming sedum. And it's part of the Rock and Low series, and it's Yellow Brick Road. So yellow flowers opposed to the typical maybe pink or red flowers that you're used to seeing on sedum. We really encourage the butterflies here, so we try to plant plants that are good for pollinators and or our host plants. And this here is Aesculapius or milkweed. I believe Ice Ballet is the variety with white flowers. So this is a plant that the monarch butterflies would lay their eggs on, and then the caterpillars will eat this as their host plant. Orange smoothie daylily, looking really nice. The black petunia is Supertunia Mini Vista Midnight, paired with Mini Vista White. Here we have the Weigela Vino Verde. This plant is a spring blooming shrub with hot pink flowers, but what's nice about it is the foliage. It's got beautiful variegated foliage. You'll see there's a little bit of green there in the center, and then burgundy all around the edges. Nice thick foliage as well, really clean, but just kind of a different foliage look for the Weigela. Up here we have the Lonicera or honeysuckle. This is the honeysuckle, oh, I just lost the name of it. Sensation, I should have known that. Beautiful yellow flowers, very fragrant. I'm definitely smelling the honeysuckle smell right now. And this is a pretty long blooming honeysuckle as well. Hummingbirds love this plant. If you're looking for a beautiful clematis, it's kind of past its prime right now, but the Sweet Summer Love, this is another fragrant clematis. Small flowers, they open up red and turn purple. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can see just all of these little seed heads. These were all at one time flowers. So just a very prolific blooming clematis that obviously this is a couple plants on here, but fills in a lot of space. Continuing on, we're going to get some butterfly bushes blooming. We've got the Miss Molly here. Now, Miss Molly usually gets about 4 foot tall, so I'm not sure if this one was recently planted and that's why it's so short. It could easily be. Then Miss Violet is next to it. That also is a variety that gets about 4 foot tall. I will say here in Michigan, most of the time our butterfly bushes, they die back to the ground. So we have to wait for them to come back from the ground up before we get flowers, where for many of you that are in maybe more southern climates, you're going to get your flowers earlier because it's going to bloom off of the previous season's growth. We have a few of our hardy hibiscus here. Unfortunately, we don't have very good flowers. They're kind of spent. But this one here is Lilac Crush, a new variety. Hopefully we can get out here. Actually, we'll post a picture up to show you what the flowers look like. Beautiful light lavender purple flowers. Like I said, a new variety in the Summerific collection. And I think this one back here is the same as well. I hope you're holding on. I know this is going to be a huge video, so just keep walking with me. There's so much to see. Here we have the Boom Chocolata hardy geranium. Beautiful dark black foliage, vibrant periwinkle purple blooms, and you can just see how pretty it is. Kind of a nice light airy plant. Next to it is a Durvilla Kodiak Fresh, which you can see how the foliage is very kind of light pale yellow green compared to the one next to it, which is Kodiak Red, which has more of the red tone with a lot of the yellow flowers and more greener greens. Another hydrangea, this one, let's see if we have the tag in it. I can tell you it's a young plant because it's not very big. Oh, this one here, this is Little Lime. So Little Lime will probably get about 5 foot tall when it's mature. It's just starting to open. And you can see, compared to some of the other hydrangeas we've seen so far, Little Lime has a lot more limey foliage than the others that maybe are a little bit more white as they're opening up. This one here does also get beautiful pink shades in Michigan, so we'll show you those as the season goes on. This is anemone. Once this opens up, it's going to sure be a show. There are buds everywhere. Some of the proven winner daylilies. The red one here is the Ruby Spider with extra large blooms with that nice golden yellow center. Primal Scream is the yellow, the yellowy orange. And then up here next to me is the Tiger Swirl. And I think it's kind of fun to see them planted next to each other. That way you can just really see side by side what the colors look like together. Behind me here, and I don't know if we can get up here to see it, but we did a pretty big planting of the Hoopla Supertunia. So this kind of shows you again what it would look like planted in the ground. And again, these probably don't get as much fertilizer as they should. So if you are somebody who's better at fertilizing than what this particular spot is, I think you'll get a lot more flowers. Now, one thing I'm noticing different from this batch compared to the ones we saw earlier in the video, we still are seeing a little bit wider white margin, but not quite as wide as what we had seen on some of the flowers in that earlier planting. So something we'll continue to watch and see, because I'm just as curious as you are as to what they're going to do throughout the heat of the summer. Making our way around the bed, and this area here kind of faces the road. So as people are driving, this is kind of what they're seeing. So we did a mass planting up here of the Little Lime Punch hydrangea. These have only been in the ground for, I believe this is their first full season from a gallon, and they're only about 2 foot tall. So these are going to continue to get larger as the years go on. I anticipate they'll probably get about as tall as I am. So we'll have to see. Probably, I'm not 6 foot, but my guess is they'll get about 6 foot tall once they get to maturity. We've got a beautiful Stand By Me clematis, and we put this in a tomato cage. It's a non-clinging clematis, so one that likes to have a little support. And we found this beautiful purple cage that looks nice with the purple flowers. A mass planting up front here of the Nemesia Aromance Mulberry. Beautiful plant. It was new this year, 2023, and it is fabulous. It did fabulous in our trials last year, and we knew we had to do mass plantings of it this year. We have it paired with Euphorbia. I think this is a Diamond Frost. We've got some Lantana tucked in here, and then the front border is the new Supertunia Persimmon and the Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow. And the Bleeding Hearts, how can I forget these guys? These, again, long blooming perennial. This is something to add to your collection. Full sun up to sundown, and these fern leaf Bleeding Hearts, they have put on a beautiful show of color all summer and spring long. So definitely, if you're looking for a nice border front plant, blooms all summer, here you go. All right, making our way around the corner. We are actually going to make this a two-part video because as I'm going along, there's just so much information. So stay tuned for the next video. We're going to continue this one up, but I wanted to just give you a little, there will be a part 2 notice. Allium serendipity, mass planted here. Beautiful globe-shaped blooms. Pollinator plant. Sugartinia clethra. This is a great shrub that is very fragrant as well. I will tell you that the clethra does spread a little bit. There's some runners, so I want to put that up front for you. Here we have the Agastache Royal Raspberry, long bloomer. Beautiful bright raspberry pink blooms. Great plant for the hummingbirds. And then we kind of did along this rock wall mass plantings, but we did mass plantings by like genera or whatever, like so coneflowers, but a bunch of colors of them. So right now there's so much beautiful coneflowers blooming. We've got the back to the fuchsia, yellow my darling, the price is white. We also did little clumpings of the tall phlox, the opening act phlox. So we've got the opening act, actually no, this is the luminary sunset coral, which has a lot of pink undertones to it. We've got the opening, I think this one's the opening act Pinkadot. So it's kind of a nice white with a little yellow pink. In front of me here is another mass planting of Agastache Queen Nectarine. And you can see these aren't near as tall as what the ones were in the other garden earlier. More mass plantings of coneflowers. Orange You Awesome. Sombreros, salsa reds. What do we got here? A double one. This is, I think, yeah, double coated raspberry beret, one of the new proven winner ones. And some more, I think this is the fuchsia is bright. So I love coneflowers. I love planting them in mass. I love mixing them all up because to me to have just a singular color, it can be pretty, don't get me wrong, but I love having just this rainbow array of color. And kind of what we did then as we continued along, we got one in the melon. The fuchsia is white. Some more of that coral sunset phlox. And then again, that bit of honey heliopsis. Long blooming. It's looking gorgeous in this garden. Here's one I think we might step up to see because this one's kind of tucked in and hiding a little bit. It's a small plant right now because it was recently planted, but the foliage I think is worth looking at. This is the Weigela Midnight Sun. This is a new Weigela for 2023. It's not flowering right now, but I think the foliage is interesting enough that I wanted to really make a point of showing it to you. The Heliopsis bit of honey, again, a mass planting of gorgeous yellow blooms. And then we'll go ahead and just walk you along the front of the garden and let you enjoy this. It's a mass planting again of the Mulberry Aromance Nemesia, the Persimmon Supertunia, and Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow. Although these aren't my typical colors that I tend to go to in the garden, I think that this mass planting turned out really beautiful this year, and I've been very impressed with how it is turning out in this garden. Thank you for watching. We're going to call this part 1 of the garden tour. Stay tuned for the next tour where we will continue walking you through our gardens here at Garden Crossings, the Proven Winners Signature Garden. If you have any questions or comments on any of the information I gave you today, and I know there was a lot, please feel free to leave your questions below. We always get to them and we'll answer them. So thanks for watching. Until the next walk through the garden, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.